Good afternoon. I am Congressman Bobby L. Rush, and I am so pleased to welcome you to this virtual fireside chat between Chicago State University President Z. Scott and my friend Major General William Walker, the current Sergeant at Arms of the U.S. House of Representatives. Most of you are already familiar with President Scott. To say the least, she is a true visionary and accomplished business and civic leader and a committed advocate for equity in higher education. Chicago State is so very blessed to have her, President Scott, as this leader during these most difficult days. As the Congressman for Illinois' first congressional district, I cannot emphasize enough how lucky and proud we are to be home to Chicago State University. Chicago State is our oldest public university. It is the only predominantly black four-year institution in Illinois and one of the top universities in our nation for economic mobility. And now, Chicago State has the proud distinction of being able to count the current Sergeant at Arms of the United States House of Representatives, none other than Major William J. Walker, among its graduates. Major General Walker was appointed the 38th House Sergeant of Arms in March 2021, and is the first African American to hold this distinguished position. And he has the enormous responsibility of making sure the people's house is safe and secure for all who visit and who work there, including yours truly. We are so immensely proud of his deep South Side roots, his embedded connection to Chicago State, and we are so pleased to have him with us this very day. Both President Scott and Major General Walker are distinguished leaders who know the true meaning of service and what it looks like and feels like to lead by example. They are both beacons and sources of inspiration to our greater Chicagoland community, and I am grateful for their enormous contribution to our city and to our nation. Thank you. God bless.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for this fireside chat. We have as our guest and the guest one of our most distinguished alum, the Honorable William J. Walker, a retired United States Army general and the 38th Sergeant at Arms of the U.S. House of Representatives, which makes him a history maker in that he is the first Black man assigned to the post responsible for maintaining order on the House side of the United States Capitol. He is also a Chicago State alum, having earned his master's degree in criminal justice from Chicago State University. We're so pleased to have him as our guest this afternoon and pleased to welcome him for this fireside chat. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam President. It is really a privilege and honor to be with you. And thank you so very much for this extraordinary opportunity. Thank you as well for your leadership of Chicago State University. As a proud alum, I'm just delighted that you are in charge at the helm of Chicago State. So it's a real honor and privilege to be with you this afternoon.
So thank you for those kind words. Why don't we just kind of jump right into our chat this afternoon? First of all, I know everyone is interested in a little bit more background. We gave the surface. Tell us a little bit about who is Major General William J. Walker.
Yes, ma'am, Madam President. So Major General Walker, William Walker, was born and raised on the south side of Chicago, where I grew up. Attended briefly St. Dorothy's Grammar School, then on to St. Sabina Grammar School, and then to Leo Catholic High School, and from there, University of Illinois at Chicago. And then to pursue graduate work, I chose Chicago State University, graduated from there, and retired DEA Special Agent, Drug Enforcement Administration, spent a little time in Chicago, then transferred to New York. I had a wide variety of assignments of increasing responsibility and trust. Spent 7 years overseas, served in the Caribbean, was a supervisory special agent in Puerto Rico, served in Miami, worked drug-related homicides, eventually went to headquarters, had a variety of assignments in headquarters, was the senior liaison to the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy. From there, 9/11 occurred, and I was activated in the U.S. Army, spent a year in the Pentagon as an operations officer. By the way, I took ROTC while at Chicago State, and then I received my commission as a second lieutenant in the Army. Because I was a DEA agent, I decided to spend most of my career in the National Guard. So I was in the National Guard of Florida, Illinois, New Jersey. I bounced around the Guard as I bounced around with the Drug Enforcement Administration. So went back to DEA, then served, was promoted to the Senior Executive Service rank and was in charge of enforcement operations throughout the state of New York, Albany, Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, Long Island, Brooklyn. Wherever we had DEA agents, I was responsible for the day-to-day operations. Was promoted to Deputy Assistant Administrator, second tier of the Senior Executive Service, was in charge of the Global Pharmaceutical and Chemical Control Program, tried to stop the deaths of from Oxycontin, oxycodone, hydrocodone, Lactique, Paladone, and the drug fentanyl was just starting to cause havoc. Left there and went to the Office of Intelligence. I was there for a couple years, and then the Army called me to serve in Afghanistan. I was a colonel at the time. Was in what was called United States Forces Afghanistan, and I also served at the embassy in Kabul. Returned to DEA and was placed in charge of the Insider Threat Program and Strategic Intelligence and Warning. And I retired from DEA in 2014 and just focused on being a National Guardsman in the District of Columbia. 2015, I was promoted to Brigadier General. And then in 2017, I was appointed the Acting Commanding General, and then received the presidential appointment in 2018, and was the 23rd person since 1802 to serve as the Commanding General of the District of Columbia National Guard. And from there, I was, as Congressman Rush, and what an honor to hear from him, as Congressman Rush stated, in March, I was requested by Madam Speaker Nancy Pelosi to serve as the 38th Sergeant at Arms, first African American since 1789. And I'm a man of faith, a man of conviction. I consider myself a family man, and deeply, deeply committed to this great nation. That kind of sums it up. It all started, though, on the south side of Chicago.
Well, we appreciate you remembering your South Side roots, and that your stop along the way included Chicago State University. What an impressive record of service to the United States of America, both in United States and abroad. And we do appreciate and applaud your service. So thank you for that summary of your career. I know there's so many stories behind it that we don't have time to tell today. But I hope that you are now writing the book so that we can read more about it at some point in the future. As we talk a little bit about your academic career, you mentioned that we have both mentioned that you chose Chicago State at some point along your route to where you obtained your master's degree in criminal justice. Can you tell me why Chicago State became your choice for a advanced degree?
Yes, President. So Chicago State had the reputation for criminal justice. I thought about who the professors were, and some of them I remember. There was a Dr. Scott. I don't think he's related to you, but Professor Scott was amazing, amazing. He's deceased now, but Chicago State had practitioners, criminal justice practitioners. In addition to Dr. Scott, there was a Professor Zavalovich, who these were all high-ranking Chicago Police Department officers. You had state police executives, Cook County Sheriff. They were practitioners in criminal justice. There were former prosecutors, just an enormous program. Terry Hilliard, superintendent of Chicago Police, is a graduate. Congressman Danny Davis. So I looked at who attended Chicago State and what they did afterwards, and then just the education that I knew I would receive. So I chose Chicago State University and was not let down.
Well, thank you. It's great to hear about some of the notables who, like you, chose Chicago State as a place for higher education. On January 20th of this year, you had the Herculean task of commanding the Joint Task Force District of Columbia, deploying more than 25,000 National Guard personnel around the country to support security, traffic control, and crowd management during the inauguration of President Biden. Where were you physically and emotionally and strategically at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and 7 p.m. Eastern Time on that inauguration day?
I was a lot of places, President Scott. So 0700, I actually started the day before then, but at 0700, I was at the Capitol and just making my rounds to speak to the soldiers and airmen from all 54 states, from every National Guard, 53 states and territories in the District of Columbia. So we really had about 26,700 Guardsmen there on point. So I spoke to the Guardsmen, told them what was being asked of them, and to look out for one another and to be prepared for any and everything. The second time was it 1 o'clock? Yeah, so around 1 o'clock, I had returned to my office, joyful that there was a peaceful transition of power that occurred at 12 noon. So I went back to my office, received updates, met with the what we call my operations officers, my intel officers, public affairs, made sure that everybody was performing as planned. There were no injuries. And then at 7 o'clock that night was the third time. I went back, way before then, I went back to the Capitol because as you know, we kept a 24-hour presence at the Capitol for quite some time, way beyond what we called the inaugural time period. So we didn't fully leave the Capitol until May, the National Guard, until May of this year. So I spent the night, I have the authority to encamp the National Guard. So nobody went home. So everybody spent the night right there in the District of Columbia National Guard Armory for weeks. We stayed there.
Well, now we know a little bit about the protection that was provided on Inauguration Day and the incredible complexity of that kind of security detail. We thank you for your attention to that. Now, we mentioned earlier that you are the first Black person to be appointed Sergeant of Arms for the U.S. House of Representatives. And I'm sure this is not the first in your career, but what does it mean to be the first? And does it come with challenges and opportunities?
Well, President Scott, it comes with both. So some pressure. I know I have to get it right, not just because of what's at stake, the security of that magnificent complex, the citadel of democracy. So it must be safe and secure, and members of Congress and their staff and our guests need to feel safe and secure. So it needs to be safe and secure, and you need to know and feel that it's safe and secure, so you can operate and take care of the people's business. So there's some pressure there, but there's also pressure to know that as the first African American, first Black person to have this job, I better get it right. So um, it won't be 231 years before Congress takes a chance on someone else Black. And so I'm doing everything I can to make sure that I do this job as close to perfection as possible. I know perfection doesn't exist, but I'm certainly going to reach excellence. And I don't want to be the last African American sergeant at arms. So that's how I feel emotionally about it, that I have to get it right.
So when you were asked to take the job, how long did you deliberate on that decision?
So, ma'am, I've been fundamentally, I'm a soldier. I did not really take too long to think about it. I pretty self-aware. I knew, not to be immodest, I knew I had the skills and the knowledge and the experience to do the job, but it caught me by surprise. I did not have a clue that I was even being considered for the position. But a soldier, and that's how I will fundamentally always be, when I'm asked to do something um, for the nation, I'm going to say yes. So I said, I pretty much right away said, yes, ma'am.
Well, we appreciate your attitude about service to the United States. Sometimes people we hear the term sergeant at arms, and we
Mhm.
know it involves keeping order. But could you take a moment to describe your typical day as sergeant at arms in the House of Representatives?
Yes, President Scott. So the typical day, every day is the same, but every day is different. So I am also the chief protocol officer. There was a position called the doorkeeper that has been consolidated within the sergeant at arms office. So I normally arrive between 7 o'clock and 7:30 every morning, and I look through the email traffic to find out what's going on the last 12 hours, and then what's happening the next 12. And it might be anywhere from, so last week, the president of Angola was a guest to the Capitol. And so, as the chief protocol officer, I make sure that the security is solid, working with the United States Secret Service. And I greet the president and then escort them to the speaker, Miss Nancy Pelosi. Um, Earlier the week, the prime minister of the UK was there, Mr. Boris Johnson, and also of the Prime Minister of Australia. So I make sure that they reach the speaker on time. I'm also responsible for all security on the House complex of the campus. So, for example, September 18th, we had a mass demonstration, and working with the Capitol Police and our partners from other police agencies, we made sure that Americans could execute their constitutional rights, but do so in a safe and secure manner. So it's an exciting day every day. Every day is the same, but every day is different.
Indeed. Tell us what person has had or persons have had the most significant influence on you and how you show up in the world.
So that would be my grandmother. She was profoundly influential to me. She was faith, deeply Catholic. I inherited so much about her discipline, the ability to push through challenges, to focus, concentrate, and make something out of my life, to strive and achieve and keep striving. No finish line, just keep going. Move the goal, have one, get to it. Very disciplined, organized, focused, powerful Black woman.
That's a new one on me. No finish line. Move the goal. Keep going. I like that. That shows up in a lot of our students on Chicago State's campus. We talked a little bit earlier in an announcement from Congressman Rush. He talked about equity and the importance of equity in education. Uh, does the terms education, equity, access, and opportunity matter to you in your life?
They matter. It's all about education. It's so foundational, education, and education comes in so many forms. But it is with education, at least as a military officer, as a DEA special agent, in this current position I have, education, at least in my experience, provides the confidence to execute. It gives you the knowledge to execute. I look at it as, for me, education provides me the ability to be bold and decisive. And how I try to state it is, properly educated, you have the confidence of knowing and know that you know. Once you have overwhelming, comprehensive, dominating knowledge, you're just confident and you know that you know, and then you could go out and execute the mission, whatever mission you're given. It really hinges on your ability to build confidence, to win trust of others. And you do that by speaking not so much authoritatively, but speaking where you know, and then others can see that you know. If that gets after the question, and so there, in my opinion, there are so many people who, if they had the opportunity to attend Chicago State, they could probably really contribute in ways that we can't even imagine. They just didn't have the opportunity, but they have the cognitive skills. They have the foundational tools resident within them. But you have to bring that out, and that's what higher education does. You know, when I left Chicago State, I knew I was equipped to take charge, to lead people, to influence others, and provide the gift of example. So it's extremely important to me, education.
Well, you dropped a lot with that. You know, those are some incredible nuggets for not only for our audience but for our students, and we will capture them to make sure that we share them with others. And about the value of education and the confidence that comes with education. Uh, at some point, you probably acquired what you think is your favorite quote, something that you think about that guides you. What is a quote or saying that is up there with the top for you, and why?
Well, I have many, but my favorite has to be President Kennedy's 1961 quote that it's been shortened, but President Kennedy said, "To those of whom much has been given, much is required. And when, at some future date, the High Court of History sits in judgment of each of us, recording whether, in our brief span of service, we fulfilled our obligations to the state. In whatever position we hold, our success or failure will be measured by the responses to 4 questions. First, were we truly men of courage? Second, were we truly men of judgment? Third, were we truly men of integrity? And finally, were we truly men of dedication?" So I've tried to live my life, not just as a DEA special agent, kicking in doors, arresting people that were predisposed to violence. I mean, seriously dangerous people. When DEA comes to arrest you, it's a felony, as you know, as a prosecutor. There's no misdemeanors. It's a felony. You're going to prison. And then in the United States Army, it's all about courage and judgment, and you must have integrity. And then are you dedicated? So that's my favorite poem, or favorite, not poem, but that's my favorite quote by President Kennedy. And if I can just share another one that Vincent Lombardi was fond of saying, and it's he would say the difference between men is energy, strong will, and invincible determination. The new leadership is in sacrifice. It is in self-denial. It is in love. It is in loyalty. It is in fearlessness and humility. But it is most of all in the perfectly disciplined will. And in the very end, this is not only the difference between men, this is the difference between great and little men. And so, President Scott, most of my life, I tried to have this perfectly disciplined will and invincible determination to accomplish goals that I set for myself. And it was about having the energy. And so that's one that I would constantly tell myself what the difference was all about. Strong will, invincible determination. And then it's about sacrifice and self-denial. It's all about choices in this world. So if you have the ability to defer gratification, if you have the ability to sacrifice and deny yourself things, then you can accomplish greater things. So those are you asked for one, but those are the two that kind of drive me. They're tied, actually. They're tied.
Again, we can't wait for to read your book. Uh, you know the there are criminal justice is one of the most popular majors among African American students in higher education. I don't know if you knew that. There's so many students across the country who choose this as the path for them through higher education. Why did you choose criminal justice as a major?
Well, so I grew up, I wanted to be a federal agent probably when I was 8 or 9 years old. Believe it or not, there was a program that came on television, The Untouchables. And the Untouchables were men of character and courage. They were uncompromisable. And I just truly enjoyed watching them. And I told myself one day, I'm going to be a federal agent and make a difference. So I felt that, so I had a bachelor's degree in liberal arts and sciences, economics, but I felt I would be more competitive to be selected by DEA. So roughly about, DEA has about almost 6,000 special agents right now. When I applied in 1981, there were about 1,500 agents. So it was a very, very competitive job. I was the only African American in my basic agent class. So it was a hard job to get, and I felt I would be more competitive with a Master of Science in Criminal Justice from Chicago State University. So that's why I decided to obtain a master's degree, and I knew Chicago State would be the place where I would really receive all the tools I needed in criminal justice.
You look at the amazing things that you've done in your career, and you're right. Some of them I truly understand from my time as a federal prosecutor, the hard work and dangerous work that you involved in yourself in as a DEA agent, not only in the United States but across the world. As you look at what you've accomplished, what advice would you have to our students and our alum as they pursue the American dream?
So President Scott, thank you for that question, but all your questions, thank you for them. I would recommend strongly that Chicago State University students get on LinkedIn, identify someone that is where they want to be or has been where they want to be, and then invite them to join their network. I don't believe anyone is self-made. I certainly wasn't. So I had a whole host of coaches, mentors, and sponsors. Rarely was one person all three. But I have found along my journey, my path, that while I went overseas, one of my coaches told me, and I'll just explain it this way. For me, the coaches that I had, they spoke at me. It was normally a one-way conversation. They were doing all the talking, and I was doing the listening, and I did what they said. I did what they suggested. It was actually more than a recommendation. These were people I greatly admired, these coaches. And then as I progressed, I had mentors, and the mentors, we did have a conversation. It was two-way, and we would talk about what I could do, what I might be able to do. And then the sponsors, the advocates, those are the ones that spoke for me. So the coaches spoke at me, the mentors spoke with me, and the sponsors, the advocates spoke for me. They were in the room. They had a seat at the table when decisions were being made at the Drug Enforcement Administration, when they were being made for promotion boards with the U.S. Army. And they shared their thoughts about my capacity to accept, shoulder, and execute additional responsibility and trust. So those, I would encourage Chicago State University students to identify coaches, mentors, and sponsors, and I would ask that they approach them and say, please, I need your help. Do you have room for a protege? And throughout my career, when I asked somebody for help and said, please, I was not denied. So there are people here that want to help other people and keep that line moving. So I would recommend that, number one, and then I would study the jobs that they might want to seek. So if it's DEA, FBI, ATF, IRS, Secret Service, federal, or Chicago Police, Cook County Sheriff's Police, state and local, I would know everything about that job. I would read and I would have confidence and I would talk to police officers and special agents and then decide, is this something you really want to do? Because you're right, it is a dangerous job, but it's a very rewarding job when at the end of the day, you've put somebody in handcuffs and you've taken them off the streets. You feel good about it. So that's my recommendation.
Great recommendations, coaches,
And also
sponsors,
join Alpha Phi
mentors.
Alpha.
Oh, shout out to the men of A5A.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I did not know you were an Alpha. That is some good news. And we do have a chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha on the campus of Chicago State. In fact, we have all of the Divine Nine members on our campus. So
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted, in addition to your hard work that has required discipline in your career that shows so many high points and is an example to many, what do you do to keep yourself, sane when you do take some downtime? What do you do?
Well, I used to study martial arts for about almost 40 years, but that's caught up with me. So now I just take long walks and read a lot and still exercise. Still try to keep the Army standard, although I'm out of the Army, but still try to follow the Army height weight standard and keep myself in relatively good shape and just read, do a lot of reading on leadership. So that's a real distraction for me.
I also wanted to make sure that you were aware that the reason that I even knew about your career and you talked a little plug for LinkedIn is through LinkedIn. Your name popped up on LinkedIn, and I saw that you were connected to Chicago State, and I like to know who our alum are and what they're doing with those degrees, and it was great so I think it's a good piece of advice to our students and to our alum to really try and connect with people through LinkedIn. We do have a number of students on our campus who are interested in careers in law enforcement. For those who are on that sort of ground level, just looking at those careers, I know you suggested that they read, but are there other things that they can do to make sure that they are prepared for careers in law enforcement?
Yeah, so President Scott, I would the Chicago Police does not have a cadet program, but there are police departments who do have cadet programs. Maybe they could do a ride along with the Chicago Police Department or the Cook County Sheriffs. And I really don't know. I left here in 82, 83. I left here in 83. But at one point, I remember when I was in grammar school and actually high school, the Chicago Police had a cadet program. I think that would be really helpful. And then there's the Boy Scouts have the Explorers, so the young people can get exposed. But I would think in Chicago State used to have a mandatory internship. If you were a criminal justice major, I don't know if that still exists.
It is. It is.
Okay, so that's a great program. I did my internship with the U.S. Coast Guard, actually, and they have law enforcement power and authority. They make drug arrests, alien smuggling. So I spent a lot of time with them, and that satisfied the requirement to do an internship. So I would recommend finding out where you can do an internship with a law enforcement agency.
So tell us, you said you got to keep the finish line and goal line moving, and as you listen to your grandmother in your ear. Where's the goal line for you right now?
So I, I'm going to do the best job I can right now as the 38th Sergeant at Arms. And then it's amazing, President Scott, but God has always put the opportunity in front of me. And so, DEA, Deputy Assistant Administrator, senior level position, and then the Army, and now Sergeant at Arms. So I'm not sure to answer your question directly, but there will be a new goal. I'm just not sure. So I thought about actually I was in a PhD program at Benedictine University. So yeah, I did have one. So the summer of 2020, we had on June 1st, we had a situation that caused the DC National Guard to have to respond to threats at the White House and at a lot of the federal parks. So the United States Capitol Police and the Uniform Division of the U.S. Secret Service requested DC National Guard help. And so it was a long summer, the summer of 2020. So I had to leave the program, but I was halfway through a PhD at Benedictine University. It's a Catholic university in Laos, and the program was values-driven leadership. So I may do that once I finish the term with the U.S. House of Representatives as the Sergeant at Arms. So the education really has no goal line, no finish line. So if they'll have me back, I will go back to Benedictine University.
Yeah. Perhaps one of your sponsors can make sure that you're back in that program. Sounds exciting.
Yes, ma'am.
You talked about your interest in reading, particularly reading about leadership and how that supports your work. What books do you have on your nightstand right now?
Oh my God. So I read. So I go back and so I'm a career intelligence officer by training with the U.S. Army, and I'm also an Army strategist. So I constantly read and reread Sun Tzu, Clausewitz, Jomini, Machiavelli, and every time I go back, I'll pick up something that I missed. But these are time-tested books on strategy. So that's pretty much what I'm really interested in. And then I'll read something that's current. So I've read all the John Maxwell books on leadership. I find them to be very, very helpful. Then I'll bounce around, but they're mostly centered on history, leadership, strategy. But no one can go wrong with reading Clausewitz, Baron von Clausewitz. His seminal book is called On War, and it's just as applicable as it was almost 200 years ago when he wrote it. Machiavelli, The Prince. You've probably read these books, Machiavelli, The Prince, and then Sun Tzu. And that is so applicable because all warfare is based on deception, and I'm learning that there's so much beyond warfare that's based on deception. When you are near, appear far. When you are in the east, appear in the west. Make noise in the east, strike from the west. It's all just great books on strategy, and that kind of consumes me.
I just, sorry about that. Your family is going to join you tonight as you receive the 2021 Cougar Servant Leadership Award for public service from Chicago State University. Can you tell us a little bit about the importance of having the support of your family, both by blood and those that you choose, for you as you continue to break barriers, literally standing on the front lines to protect our country?
Yeah, so my wife will be there, my siblings, and then there'll be so many other family members that I'll talk to. So family is absolutely essential. Again, there are no self-made people. We all need in my opinion, a cheerleading squad. We need cheerleaders that'll tell you, and fact tellers as well. So nobody can tell you as well as a family member that you're off course, that you need to readjust, that and you don't take it personal, or sometimes you might, but family can cheer for you and then give you the constructive feedback to help you realign and make sure you're on path, that your compass is true north. So that's what my siblings have done for me, and there's so many other family members make sure that I'm on the right path, and just I pretty much know I'm on that path, but that reassurance, yes, you're keep going. You have smooth pavement ahead of you. So the family is very important, and friends as well. People that you can trust, that will give you the right feedback. I can, if I got a minute, just to, when you write something sometimes, and I always ask somebody, hey, take a look at this before I go final, before I sign it, because once I sign it, it's my signature,
Right.
and it's a lot about me. So I put enough into it, and then sometimes I will, say, hey, can you look at this for me? And if somebody looks at it and gives it right back to me and says it looks good, I don't ask them again. I want somebody who's really going to look at it, wire brush it. I mean, really scrub it and tell me, no, this is not. You can do better than this. So, and that's what family can do. And it's not personal when a family member tells you. My youngest sister, Takia, she's very critical how she writes, and she'll tell me, hey, William, this is jacked up, yeah. And I'll say, okay, and I'll fix it. Because sometimes you miss it. You know what you want to say, and you don't always say it as clear and concise as you want to. So I always have a second mind in any challenge that I might have, a second look. If there's time, I will get a second look. And family is where I go almost in a reflex to go to them. Hey, what do you think? Do I have it? Do I have it right or about right? So very, very important.
So if you could preview for us your thoughts on being honored tonight by Chicago State.
Just amazing. I mean, profoundly honored to and blessed to have this extraordinary opportunity. Like I said, I mean, when I think about who has graduated from Chicago State, that the selection committee landed upon me to be sitting there with the other two honorees. I'm just amazed that we have, that I would be thought of when I think about who else has graduated from Chicago State. I mean, some profoundly successful people, people that I attended Chicago State with, who have reached high points. And what I'm hoping, President Scott, is that we can identify others who are, if not more worthy, just as worthy of this recognition. So I probably talk briefly about that tonight. I am truly honored and blessed to have this, and I really know that there are others just as worthy. And I think what happened for me, the media caught me with, January 6th and other events. But I do know people that I'm going to share with the foundation could be recognized, should be recognized.
Well, we will be honored to accept recommendations on servant leadership from you. Well, I want to just first of all thank you for these incredible words of wisdom. I take notes every time I talk to people because I keep a diary of thoughts that people share with me about all kinds of things that I think are profound. I think, and you may not recognize it, but many of the things that you shared about your journey, your leadership, your interests, your humility, your service, your commitment have been profound. And we of course have taped this and we'll share it with our students in our network. So we appreciate your words. We appreciate your service. We appreciate your wisdom that you've been willing to share with us here this afternoon. And we will see you tonight at our annual First Generation Scholarship Gala that we are hosting to support our student scholars. There's as you said, there's so many great stories and so many great stories about students that graduate from Chicago State who are out there carving a path and really doing great things for the United States and for our country and for higher education and other places. So we look forward to hearing your remark tonight and sharing you with the greater Chicago State stakeholder community. So thank you again for your time. And we will see everyone who's attending the gala. And I hope if you don't, you'll be able to see clips of Major General Walker as he accepts his award from Chicago State. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, President.